Hey everyone, Miss Cutrera here. Today we're going to be drawing line. This is episode 2, part 2 of our last video, and this is about how to become a better artist. So here we go.
Okay, and then the last one is implied lines. Just say we have like an orange. Okay, so we have a real orange, and I'm gonna like pretend like I'm painting an orange, right? So the orange does not have any, you could think of it as this eraser as well. It does not have any lines technically, it's just an object, right? Implied lines makes our eyes, and when we draw, a lot of times we outline what we call implied lines. So if we were drawing the orange outline, we would go like that, right? Because it's not really there, but it's implied. Now there could be some sort of lines that look like a line, and they could be broken line. It could be a little bit more abstract where it kind of goes like that or something, and we could make that an implied line and kind of picture it as a real line, right? So if we're drawing a landscape and we saw maybe some hills, we would draw the implied line there. All right, so what we're gonna do, guys, is we're gonna do some examples of how to become a better artist using these practically, but I'm just gonna give you some of my tips right here of some things that I've learned and that have made me a better artist personally. Number one will be using sketch/gesture lines when you need to and knowing when not to do it, right? So let's say we're trying to do a face drawing. I can do a quick gesture of the way it's gonna look, right? Maybe even the body, right? And gesture is just supposed to get your ideas out there fast. But when you actually are drawing something that, let's say we did a bunch of these and you're happy with it, you're gonna go way slower. You're gonna think precisely on where to place your lines, but you want to go slower, right? And you want to draw lighter, because if you mess up, you can easily erase, and then you can go back over when you feel like you're happy, right? Now, there's another thing let's talk about is these like jagged lines, and it kind of shows up better with the pen. So let's say we're trying to make a circle, right? Some students go like this. They do a bunch of fast, sharp, jagged lines, or if we're trying to draw the face, just a bunch of inconsistent, jagged, straight lines, and they're very sharp, right? Just looks like this. So when you want to draw, there's this thing called a follow-through line. So instead of drawing like that, you basically swoop down and make it kind of light and then dark by pushing hard, and then lift up. So this is kind of teaching you how to draw more accurately and more pleasing to the eye. So when you draw, you kind of can lift it up and go back down, okay? And that way, it's just gonna look way better. Now, a lot of it has to do also with your mind. Follow through lines is right here. Sketch lines right here. And then let's talk about mind. Your mind. So when you draw, you want to kind of think ahead. Instead of starting to draw too fast, you could kind of get into these bad looking lines or kind of a sketch line, and you're basically trying to draw faster than your mind is calculating. So a lot of it is how you see it with your eyes rather than just becoming a good artist with your hands. So a lot of it has to do with your mind strength and just learning what to look for and how to execute. So with that, what I always like to do is look at my subject with my eyes. So look with eyes. So if I'm trying to draw, let's say, the eraser, instead of just saying, okay, it's a cube, draw a quick cube, I can look at it and see how some parts might be a little rubbed off. It might have some little details of some holes in it. And then coming down on the perspective, and we're going to talk about perspective, and see it's going to look different if you keep looking at it every 3 seconds. When you draw, you're training your eyes to draw what you see and not with what you think in your mind. Okay, that's a really big one. So leading up to that, we're gonna do a quick example. So this is a practice activity we can do. Contour lines. And what a lot of people do, get an object and kind of do a hand placement. Let's see. Let's do it like this. But basically what you're gonna do is you're training your eyes to draw what you see, not what you think in your mind, right? Is you are going to not look at your drawing and follow the lines, draw slowly and carefully. So let me do it really quick. I'm going to, and you have to follow the line. You can't pick up your paper. And you're training yourself to really look at, see, I'm not looking at my paper at all. I'm just looking at my hand. And you're going to be tempted to look and see. Now I lift it up. I gotta, okay, go back here. So I'll just stop right there for the sake of time. But you guys see how it doesn't look that good, but this is practicing. This, like, it hurts because you really want to look at your drawing, but it's training you to look with your eyes. So then when I would do this without the contour line activity, I would be able to, okay, see where this starts and then be drawing and look back and forth. 1, 2, 3, draw something, 1, 2, 3, look. Draw 1, 2, 3, look back, and you constantly looking back at your source material. All right, and then the last thing, guys, before I do the line drawing, what I want to talk to you guys about is when you draw something, it's easier to do, instead of just drawing it, you want to look at, this is my last video I did, instead of just drawing the basic lines, I'm going to try to incorporate this more into my videos because I kind of do it before where I do the main shapes and then I go over it. But if you're just following along without doing the main shapes, it is going to be a little harder. So I'll try to incorporate that in my future videos. But let's say you're trying to draw the G-Wagon, right? And you're just following all of my lines. It might turn out a little wonky. Just doing this for fun real quick. See that? Look at the hood is way off. Everything is way off balance. You see that? So a really big key when you're doing your art is looking at the main shapes, right? And we're going to talk about this next video for shapes, but let's just do a quick sketch. So it's a big kind of rectangle right here, and then it has the front hood that's a rectangle, but then everything is also a little bit on a line like that, and then we have our wheels right here. And then as we start adding things, it starts to look more realistic. You guys see that? So It's more about getting the basic proportions right before you try to make a perfect drawing and the proportions are wrong. Let's say you have great line, but your proportions are wrong. It's going to look bad. So proportions are a really big thing in drawing the shapes. And that's what we're going to be talking about in our next video, shape, and more about proportions later. Okay, so what we're going to do now, guys, I'm going to draw a picture and explain some of the processes of practicing. And I'm going to do a fast forward of it, and then I'm going to talk at the end. So real quick, before we go, let's talk about some examples that you guys can practice, some activities at home, okay? So first of all, practicing your thickness, practicing your value, practicing your length, practicing variety, practicing hatching and cross hatching. So the more you practice, the better, right? Gesture lines. So you can do a gesture drawing. Let's say you tell your friend or family member to stand and do a pose, and then you draw them really quick in a gesture about 1 minute. And so all it is just you practicing getting the way to draw correctly. So practicing your line and hand movement and looking at it, and you're not thinking too hard, you're just practicing getting the gestures down, kind of like building up your sketches, right? And then another thing you want to do is practice making drawings that combine all the types of lines. So you could do like a still life, which is like some objects placed, a landscape, or some of my videos, and using the straight lines, the curved lines, the thick, cross hatching, right, all of it together into a giant video. And then lastly, the contour lines. You can get an object or do a pose with your hand, and you're drawing what you see rather than looking at your paper. So you're not allowed to look at the paper. That's going to train your eye to draw what you see. And there we have it. That is line. That concludes our 2 episodes. So we're going to be having the 7 elements of art. So our next one will be shape. Then we'll do space, value, form, texture, color. So those are the 7 elements of art. So stay tuned for our next episode of the series. And then we're also going to have a second series, which is principles of art. And that has another 7. So when you combine these 7 with the next 7, will make you a great artist. So that concludes our episode. Stay tuned for some Sonic videos of some new characters, and we have some more ideas coming. So I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment if you guys found this helpful. Peace out.